there are books that are wet, like properly wet, then you want to ensure that you keep the book closed, and you will keep it shut even if you need to rinse it. So if it is wet but is covered with soot, which again can happen, you would rinse it simply by immersing it in a water bath. So just a plastic tray filled with water, immerse it and lift it out again, ensuring that you keep it shut the whole time. And then you can brush off the loose dirt as we saw before, and then you put it into a plastic bag like this one, so a resealable bag. And then seal it, label it as well with the object number of the book, and then you consider freezing it. So if it's very wet, or if the inks are running or dyes on the cover are running, or there's a lot of books that you just can't air dry using a wind tunnel, which we'll look at in a second, then wrapping in freezer paper is a potential option as well. I wasn't able to get any freezer paper in time for this, but it's basically like a sort of waxed paper that you can just buy in the supermarket for wrapping things up and freezing them. And because it's slightly waxed, it doesn't stick in quite the same way as, say, like a greaseproof paper might or something like that. So that's very good. And again, you would do it the same way as the dry books. You put them in a crate, but you would put them spine facing down, and then stacking them this way with the spine down in the box. So if things are damp, also on the matter of freezing, we do have a contract with Harwell, Harwell Documentary Recovery Services. So we share that with archives and I guess with libraries as well. And they have the facilities to freeze large numbers of wet objects. So that is also something that it might just be a case of keeping them crated until Harwell can come and collect them and then get them frozen. And the difference between things that are frozen within 48 hours and things that are left for a week in terms of mold growth is really incredible. So it's really good that we've got that contract in place. So if things are damp, so for example, you've just got like a wet edge, or maybe the first few pages are wet, then you can build a wind tunnel. So that's what I've got sort of here. And what you do with the books is basically you are going to open them and fan them out. So I'm going to be over here, just behind here, and if you can't hear me because I've moved further away, if somebody can just turn their mic on and let me know, that would be brilliant. So with the wind tunnel, you need basically a table. So I'm doing this on top of the table with some stools, simply because I didn't think I'd be able to get the table on screen. But with a table, just a regular table, you can cover it with polythene that goes all the way down the sides. And again, I don't have polythene in my house, so I'm using a black bin bag to illustrate the point. Yeah, you basically just want to ensure that the two long sides of your table are enclosed with polythene, and you can weight those sides down as well so that it doesn't flap up with anything heavy, really crates or something with something else in. For the purposes of today's demonstration, what I have is just a normal fan. I've got a couple of stools, but they've got gaps in the legs, so that will let the wind travel through. You can ignore the tape for now, that's for something later. And it is just a normal domestic fan, which doesn't have a stand, so that's why it's in a vase, because this is very Heath Robinson. And then, in the absence of polythene, what I'm going to use is just a bin bag. It's going to go over the top. I'm going to weigh it down at the back with just anything that I have lying around. So I've just got some cotton tape here, which I will use. But first of all, I'll just lift it up to the front so you can see what's going on inside. So if books are strong enough to be stood up on their edge, generally speaking, hardbacks that are only damp are normally that are strong enough to do that, then you want to fan them out. Fan the pages out, and then you can allow them to air dry. So So then you turn your fan on, and that will take some air through the tunnel. Keep it on a low level. If you've got two fans, that's better, because then you can have a fan at the other end, and that balances it out quite well in terms of the air. It's not sort of pushing the air just one direction, because they're working together, and it creates a sort of a better balance for drying. So they would be drying under there in the wind tunnel. And then if you've got things that are not strong enough to stand up but are slightly damp, then you might sit them on top and use blotting paper to dry them. So with blotting paper, we've got quite a lot of blotting paper actually at the collection centre. You're going to be cutting pieces that will fit in the books, about the same size as the page, and you want to be placing those every 5 centimetres or so in the book, unless there's a page that's particularly damp, and just place it inside, and then you are laying the books flat. What you want to be doing with those is checking them pretty frequently and changing the blotting paper as soon as it gets wet, basically. The blotting paper does really help with not only drying by absorbing moisture, but also it does prevent the run of the dye and so on in the inks. So yeah, so you can use the top part of your wind tunnel where theoretically the wind won't be going through, the wind will be going through the bottom bit here. Let's see if this works. Yes, first mistake. So I should have put this going the other way. And then you can see that the wind is going through and the books are drying a little bit, but they're not being blown too much. So this will go down and be weighed down, and then that keeps the wind kind of going through the tunnel. That can just be kept, being checked all the time to make sure things are okay. You can also, when you're checking the blotting paper in the paper, you can also turn the books around to make sure that they are drying evenly. You must never dry them facing this way. It should always be on the bottom edge or on the top edge, and always make sure that you fan them out nicely. But it's a really simple structure. It's literally just, a flat surface with legs with polythene over it, and then a fan or 2 fans.